Hi, welcome to the channel. Dutch DNA. Okay, what is the genetic history of the Netherlands? Wow, this looks interesting. We're gonna check it together. Let's dive right into the video.
How has the genetics of the Netherlands changed over time, and what is the genetic makeup of the country today? What impact did the Romans, Germanic peoples, the Vikings, the Dutch colonial period, and various other episodes down through history have on the genetics of the Netherlands? Now, the word Netherlands literally means lower countries, which is in reference to its low elevation and flat topography. The people are much taller than the landscape though, as Dutch people are the tallest in the world. Outside of the Netherlands itself, people with Dutch ancestry are found across the world, notably in places such as the United States, South Africa, Canada and Australia. Some of the best artists in history have also been Dutch, including Rembrandt and Van Gogh or Van Gogh, two of my favourite artists. Now, linguistically, there is a connection between the Dutch language and the English language. Both are West Germanic languages, and Dutch is generally considered the easiest language for English speakers to learn. And in fact, the Frisian languages, which are spoken in parts of the Netherlands and Germany, are actually the closest languages to English, thanks to the Anglo-Saxon migrations.
I've been calling it Netherlands, but I love the way you pronounce it. Netherlands, right? That's the pronunciation, right? But I love the pronunciation. I'm learning this because now it's just gonna change the way I sort of pronounce it. I'm still gonna learn the right pronunciation, right? But still, good.
If you look at Frisian words for welcome at the top of this table and good morning at the bottom, you can see the similarities with English. And Friesland is one of the 12 provinces of the Netherlands today, to the north of the country, which is named after the Frisians. But what about the genetic history of the Netherlands? Well, the ancient genetic history of the country is quite similar to other Western European countries. Firstly, there was Western hunter-gatherers, early Western hunter-gatherers, then there was early European farmers from around Anatolia, and then there was steppe ancestry that's connected to migrations from the Pontic-Caspian steppe associated with the Yamnaya culture. A few fascinating ancient cultures are worth mentioning in the ancient history of the Netherlands. One is the funnel-beaker culture, which existed from around 4300 BC to about 2800. This ancient people gets its name from its characteristic ceramics and beakers with funnel-shaped tops, which were often found in dolmen burials. Around the end of the funnel beaker period, however, two other cultures arose. One was the corded ware complex that appeared around 3000 BC. It covered vast parts of northern, central and eastern Europe. Named after the cord-like impressions of its pottery, the Y-DNA haplogroup R1a was the most common amongst corded ware men. Shortly after the rise of the corded ware people, there was another connected culture known as the bell beaker people that arose around 2800 BC. These bell beakers are again named after their pottery, and the Y-DNA haplogroup R1b was very common amongst bell beaker men. With this,
hold on, I just want to believe that this still exists, right? I want to believe that. I've never been to the Netherlands, but I want to believe this still exists. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Because I love culture, history, all that jazz.
haplogroups still found in Dutch people today, as we'll see later in the video. But what about later episodes? Well, during the Iron Age, there is two main episodes that are worth highlighting. Firstly, there was a migration from southern Scandinavia into the land we call northern Germany today, and this probably had some impact on the land we call the Netherlands today as well, with various Germanic groups tracing their origins back to southern Scandinavia. Secondly, we know that the Celts were one of the main groups in Europe during the Iron Age, and the Latin culture associated with the Celts would have had some influence in parts of the Netherlands, especially in the south. The Celts from Gaul were associated with various haplogroups, including the Y-DNA haplogroup R1b U152. The Celts, however, seem to have a limited genetic impact on the Netherlands, and any influence would have been mainly in the south. The Romans soon arrived, however, with the Roman Empire expanding into the Netherlands in the 1st century BC, particularly in the southern regions once again, where the province of Germania Inferior was established. The Frisi were a tribe that occupied the northern coastal part of the Netherlands at this time, and this tribe seemed to retain a reasonable level of independence during this period. While the Roman presence brought new cultural influences to the Netherlands, the genetic impact of Roman rule appears to have been relatively modest compared to other episodes. Southern parts of the Netherlands may have seen a small increase in ancestry from Southern Europe or the Near East during this time. However, the overall genetic contribution of these groups to the Dutch population was limited. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD triggered a period known as the Migration Period. This was a period of movement within Europe.
Was that? I think I did.
And many Germanic peoples came into the
Let me
Netherlands.
take it back. Hold on, I'm so
The
sorry.
Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD triggered a period known as the Migration Period. This was a period of movement within Europe, and many Germanic peoples came into the Netherlands. During this time, the area where the Frisi tribe lived seemed to be largely deserted for a period, perhaps due to piracy and environmental factors, before people from northwestern Germany and southwestern Denmark moved into this area a little later. They adopted the original name of the land though, becoming the New Frisians. They would go on to form the Frisian Kingdom between 600 and 734 AD, before this was conquered by the Kingdom of the Franks in the 8th century. The
This is a lot of information about history that one actually needs to learn about. And I love this. If I'm being honest, I enjoy this because it's an eye opener. Netherlands. No, that wasn't how you pronounce it. Netherlands. Netherlands. Right? Did he take it up or add on? I'm sorry, but I'm still in the process of learning the right pronunciation. Pardon me.
Saxons were just to the east as well, and how distinct all these groups were is debated, but we know that the main Y-DNA haplogroup amongst the Franks was R1b U106. This haplogroup is still pretty common in the Netherlands today, as we'll see later, and it is associated with Germanic peoples in general. But what impact did the Vikings have on the genetics of the Netherlands? Well, before we look at that, I would like to quickly thank my Patreon members for voting in a recent poll.
Okay, talk about the pronunciation Netherlands. Netherlands. You did not put the learned.
For this video topic, and I will make a video on all the topics people voted for. If you would like to vote on what video topics I make videos on, please check out my Patreon page. I'll put a link in the description below, or you can go to Celtic History Decoded on Patreon. Thanks for your support, and now on with the video. Now, during the Viking Age, the Netherlands experienced raids and settlements by Scandinavian Vikings, particularly along the northern and coastal regions, and they made their mark genetically as well. A 2020 study published in Nature Communications, for instance, that looked at the Dutch population structure in general, found that ancestry profiles show a small but significant contribution of Danish haplotypes in the north and west of the Netherlands, a possible vestige of Viking raids in coastal areas in the 9th and 10th centuries. They add that from their data, it appears that the modern Dutch genome has indeed been partially shaped by historical Viking admixture. This Danish Viking contact is contemporaneous with a critical period in the establishment of the modern Dutch genome from other outside forces, from around 1000 to 1100 AD. So, although small, the Danish Vikings made their mark genetically on the Netherlands. But what about more recent events in the genetic history of the Netherlands? Well, the early modern period, from around the 16th to the 18th centuries, saw the Netherlands emerge as a major European power, particularly during the Dutch Golden Age of the 17th century. During this time, the Dutch Republic became a centre of trade, finance and colonisation, and its cities
Wow.
attracted immigrants from across Europe. The Dutch colonial empire, which spanned the Americas, Africa and Asia, and which was led by companies such as the Dutch East India Company, also resulted in
Oh,
some new genetic influences. Some Dutch settlers who returned from colonies in places like Indonesia, Suriname, and the Caribbean brought with them some small amounts of genetic diversity from these regions, although the overall genetic impact of colonialism on the Dutch population was limited. The
I know about them, the Dutch, Netherlands, in South Africa, right? Right. But I was even waiting for that part. Maybe you would mention it, but is the Netherlands the same as Holland? Are they the same? Does Holland still exist? Hmm. Let me know in the comments below, but I also do my findings and do my research regarding it as well.
Netherlands has also been a refuge for some people fleeing religious persecution at different times, such as the Huguenots
Yeah.
or Huguenots from France and the Sephardic Jews from Spain and Portugal. But what about the genetic structure of the Netherlands today, and what haplogroups are most common amongst Dutch people? Well, a 2020 study published in the European Journal of Human Genetics found that R1b is the most common Y-DNA haplogroup in the Netherlands, followed by I. To be more specific, 62% of people belong to R in general, most belong to R1b, but some belong to R1a as well. As far as the most common subclass of R1b, 15.1% of people in this study belong to R1b L48, 13.8% to R1b M405, which confusingly is also known as R1b U106, and 9% to R1b S116. On the other hand, 27.8% of people in this study belong to IM170. This study also modelled the regional variability of these haplogroups. IM170 is more common in the northeast of the country and the northern coastal areas, for instance, which would make sense as I is a common haplogroup in Scandinavia and amongst the Vikings historically. The other subclans of R1b also show some regional variation as well, as you can see. This general pattern is mirrored in other studies as well. This is the Y-DNA breakdown of the Netherlands from Wikipedia, with R1b the most common haplogroup on the Y-DNA side, followed by I1. They also note that R1b U106 is high in regions such as Frisia, at around 42%. On the maternal side, H is the most common mitochondrial haplogroup in the Netherlands, including H1, H3, and H5. Other
Oh, interesting. That means lots of people might go check their DNA and might find traces of them from the Netherlands, right? Who knows? Who knows? That's quite interesting information still, right?
relatively common mitochondrial haplogroups include subclans of U, such as U5, an ancient mitochondrial haplogroup in Europe. K is also worth mentioning as well on the maternal side, as it's somewhat common amongst Dutch people. As far as the population structure of the Netherlands, a 2013 study published in the European Journal of Human Genetics found that there was three major clines: north and south, east and west, and the middle band in the rest of the country. Some have
Mm.
speculated that this north-south divide was driven by the cultural division between the predominantly Catholic South and the Protestant North, yet a 2020 study found that this division is much more historic than this. Although later religious influences could have compounded it, the river systems of the Netherlands probably were the main driver of this split, such as the lower Rhine and Vaal rivers, serving as natural barriers, with the south of these rivers perhaps influenced more by the Celts and the Romans, and the north more influenced by Germanic and Scandinavian peoples. Unsurprisingly, as well, when looking at the map, the Netherlands has ancestry from its border countries of Germany and Belgium, with this ancestry in
Mm.
general declining the further you move away from these borders. Overall, though, the Netherlands has had various genetic influences on it down through history, with steppe ancestry, Germanic influences, and then some Danish ancestry from the Vikings, some notable examples. Like I said earlier, the Dutch language and the English language are quite closely related, but are the Dutch people and the English people closely related as well? Well, to find out, please click here. Thanks for watching. If you would like to vote for the video topics I make videos on, please check out my Patreon page.
Thank you so much for such information. I love this. But yeah, I've got a question. Is Holland part of Netherlands? Hold on, let me check. Let me just quickly do a Google search. Is Holland a country? Oh, no, Holland is not a country. It is a region within the Netherlands. Oh, the Netherlands, also known as Holland, is the country in the northern West Europe. Wait, what? The Netherlands is also known as Holland, right? Hmm. Therefore, we're referring to the entire nation. It's more accurate to use the term the Netherlands. Oh, right. Because I've always wondered, like, Holland. Hmm. Okay. Okay. This makes sense. Makes total sense. But yeah, this was quite interesting. Regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.